vision and core values, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Center. Our vision at BCSE is that we are the choice to learn, work, and play. Our mission is to develop expert learners by partnering with our community to invest in people. And then our core beliefs are that we all can rise to the challenges of high expectations, that learning is most effective when we have choice, flexibility, and see relevance, that we thrive when our physical, social, and psychological needs are met, that our community and school district are stronger when we partner with one another, that we flourish because of the diversity and variability in our community, and that our democracy and democratic institutions are strengthened by civic-minded citizens.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. We're happy to start this evening with some recognitions and celebrations. Dr. Phillips and Mr. Lewis, you kick us off.
Thank you. Columbus North Boys Cross Country. Come on up, Mr. Clark, Mr. Lewis, whoever's kicking us off. Was able to go to Terre Haute a couple weeks ago and see these guys put on one of the more impressive runs in the history of the state of Indiana Boys Cross Country. It was outstanding.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Brian Lewis. I'm the athletic director for Columbus North High School. I won't say much tonight because Coach Sluter has a lot to say about the guys that he's coached pretty much all year, and they've done a really good job of staying focused in week by week. I had a chance to go to the state meet, and it's a little nerve-wracking when you've gone undefeated, and when you get there, you're like, okay, just one more. These guys went out, did a fantastic job, and congratulations to you guys.
Thank you for hosting us again tonight. This is outstanding. This is one of the, I'm going to brag for just a minute, this is one of the best Indiana high school cross-country teams in state history. We scored 58 points at the state meet, which is one of the lowest scores in the past 25 years, and we won by 70 points. So we had over half the score that second place had. We had 4 all-state runners, so you have to be in the top 25. So we had Jace Works at 8th place, Denton Sluter in 13th place, Justin Reckers in 17th place, and Joseph Day in 22nd place, and then Graham Pumphrey was 33rd place overall, so very close to having 5 there. And then Sam Steinmetz and Logan Van Sant rounded out our 7. And Logan is our 7th man, actually, so 5 runners score for your team. Logan, as our 7th man, was better than every other team's 5th man except for one team. So we would have placed every one of our 7 on their scoring squad. So we had an amazing day and had an amazing performance. And then yesterday, we followed that up with qualifying for Nike National Cross Country Meet, which is the most exclusive cross country meet in the state or in the country. 5 teams go to Terre Haute, or 5 states. I'm getting nervous now. 5 states go to the Midwest Regional: Missouri, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. And we won by 58 points, which is an amazing gap. And so these guys are headed to Portland, Oregon to compete in the national meet with only 22 teams invited from across the country. So they have an outstanding record this year. We went undefeated. Most of these guys are also academic all-state, first team or honorable mention. And so we just had an unbelievable year, and I could probably talk for 3 or 4 more minutes about their performance. But it's just been a pleasure to coach them, and our coaching staff is tonight. Coach Weinheimer couldn't be here. He's been at a wedding this weekend for a family member. But Coach Burton, who is a Columbus North alum and is a teacher at Northside, and Coach Reitzman, who is a teacher at Columbus North and has been on our staff for 2 years. We have one of the best staffs in the entire state, and that shows on a night like tonight. So, again, thank you for hosting us. Thank you for having us. And we're so excited to bring this trophy home to the school board and to Dr. Phillips. So thank you, guys.
Congratulations. Thank you. big shout out and thank you to all the cross-country parents in the audience tonight. School Corporation appreciates your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations, and again, good luck in a couple weeks to the entire team, families. On this next slide here shows all of our fall academic all-state selections, and if my count was correct, there are just right at 60 students from our 3 high schools across all of the fall sports. Just tremendous, tremendous accomplishments on the part of our students. Some of you here this evening, and some of the staff members here in the audience that help these students be successful as well. See a lot of East folks back there. Just congratulations, and please keep up the hard work. And next we have Mr. Miller, Mr. David Miller from Columbus East High School, to introduce I guess from one Hall of Fame member to another.
I'm David Miller. I'm the Director of Athletics at Columbus East High School. Thank you to the school board and Dr. Phillips for recognizing Coach Cooper on his amazing accomplishment into the Hall of Fame. Tonight, we were fortunate to hear from 3 young men who embody exactly what Coach Cooper stands for. Each of them represents a different part of his impact, but together they paint a clear picture of the kind of coach and person that he is. First, you'll hear from Talon Jessup. Talon represents the work ethic and resilience that Coach Cooper instills in all of his student athletes. He's a young man who's learned how to push through challenges, stay grounded, and hold himself and others to a high standard. Next will be Caleb Cooper. Caleb brings a unique perspective, not only as knowing Coach Cooper as a coach, but as a father. His experiences reflect the consistency of Coach Cooper's leadership with the same expectations and accountability. Finally, you'll hear from Caden Rooks. Caden represents the championship mindset that the standard for East Wrestling. His accomplishments speak for themselves, but even more impressive is the discipline and character he's developed under Coach Cooper's guidance. Coach Cooper's legacy is measured not just in titles, but in the young men that leave the program better prepared for life. First up, Talon Jessup.
All right, hi, my name's Talon Jessup. I'm one of Coach Cooper's captains and a state placer for him. I met Coach Cooper when I was 5 or 6 years old, wrestling in the youth club. I thought he was a cool guy, pretty cool beard. He was the coach of one of my idols, which is he was Cade Rook's coach. I knew from that moment that he needed to be in my corner, and from that point on, he was. No matter where I was, whether it was a local tournament or I was traveling across the country to compete, Coach Coop was always in my ear or on the phone, guiding me down the right path. I've spent countless hours and nights at the Cooper's house, and they're truly a second family. One of my standout memories with Coach Coop happened recently. Staying at his house, woke up, my shoulder was dislocated. And it's kind of wild. We're like, right away, Coach Coop was awake. He's there to help. He not only drove me to the hospital, but he stayed there with me for well over 4 hours, and he was not willing to leave. And I was extremely thankful for that. This is one of the many instances that I have with Coach Coop, not just being a coach, but the most loyal and unrelenting mentor that I've ever had or I've ever heard of. In Coach's words, he'll always be there to help me bury the body. And I'll give it off to Caleb Coop.
Good evening. I'm Caleb Cooper, Coach Coop's oldest son. I'm a senior East and wrestler for his team. I want to start by saying there's no one more deserving of this award than my dad, right? But honestly, I expected nothing less from him. And I'm pretty sure no one did, actually. When the news came out, I'm pretty sure nobody was surprised. Not even he, not even I was surprised. But wrestling is a sport that demands toughness, discipline, and heart. And my dad didn't just teach those things, he lived them. Whether you're a first-year kid learning how to tie your shoes or a state-level competitor preparing for the biggest match of your life, he poured the same energy, same patience, and same expectation into every one of his wrestlers. He believes that the effort matters more than the talent, the character matters more than the wins, and that the mat was just a tool for shaping better people. And he's proven that year after year. There are wrestlers who still come back to visit him long after they've graduated, some with families, some with careers, and they all say the same thing: Coach changed my life. But it's not because he taught them, like, how to wrestle good, how to be a champion and all that. It's because he taught them how to handle adversity, how to push past limits, and how to get back up when life slammed them harder than any opponent could. I've had the privilege of seeing that from two perspectives, as his wrestler and as his son. And as I've seen him stay late after practice, help someone master a move, even when he was tired. I've seen him celebrate the small wins that no one else noticed. I've seen him care about every athlete like they're his own kid. To me, he's always been the hardest worker in the room, even if it wasn't his match, even if it wasn't his spotlight. Through the countless hours my dad has put in the sport of wrestling, nobody is more deserving of this award than my dad, Coach Cooper.
I don't know if our goal was to get up here and talk your guys' ears off, but apparently that's what we're going to do right here. Good evening. My name is Caden Rooks. I'm a proud East alum, a two-time wrestling state champion, and now a guidance counselor at Columbus East. And I can say without a doubt that so much of the man I am today has come from Coach Chris Cooper. On October 16th, Coach Cooper was inducted into the Indiana Coaches Hall of Fame. I've experienced the unique opportunity of being one of Coach Cooper's wrestlers and then now one of his assistant coaches. Though there are some differences between then and now, some aspects that remain the same are his unwavering care for his student athletes, that you guys have heard from a lot of us, for his staff and his athletes, the team culture that he has built, and his drive to be successful. These all intertwine to create what we know today as Columbus East Wrestling. Time and time again, Coach Cooper shows that he would do anything for any member of the program. He defines what a servant leadership looks like to a T. There are infinite examples that I could provide for you, like how Coach Cooper himself takes care of the laundry, cleans the mats, makes sure everything is in order, so the wrestlers only have to worry about a handful of items each day, two of those being show up to practice and show up to class. I can remember the only time in high school when I can recall being late. Each time someone's late when you're at practice, you have to run sprints for that. So instead of watching us run sprints, Coach Cooper joined in and ran the sprints with us to show that he could do whatever, that he'll do whatever for his guys. Moments like these clearly stick with his wrestlers throughout their lives. The Columbus East team culture is built around accountability, self-discipline, and getting better every day. These values are not only put in place to make each student athlete a better wrestler, but to make them great young men who can be successful once their time at East is done. Coach Cooper's goal is to have student athletes get as close to their fullest potential as possible, whether that's giving them a chance to a freshman student who is struggling with his classes and needs a constant in his life, or not letting the senior student slip up after they've gone through so much adversity. A great case of this is a student athlete who had one of the best reformation stories I've ever heard of. He started off freshman year not in a great place and was in a lot of trouble with school due to his poor actions. However, Coach Cooper did not give up on this student, and eventually he started to align his own morals with that of the team culture. His senior year, he was someone we really considered to be one of our team captains, and that we could really rely on. This was just one example, but there's plenty more just like that. Finally, Coach Cooper's drive to be successful is almost unmatched. He spends countless hours doing the little things that have the biggest impacts. This includes watching countless hours of film, coming up with individual plans for our guys to work on, making sure that our guys' grades are in check. The list goes on and on. The amount of time and effort that Coach Cooper puts in his program directly translates into the success that we've had on the mat. So I'm going to share some of his successes with you right now. Coach Cooper has had over 300 dual wins, 8 conference titles, 12 sectional titles, 8 regional titles. The team has been a 9-time IHS WCA team state qualifier. This includes a first place, a runner-up, and 2 third-place finishes. He's coached the team to a 3rd, 5th, and 7th place finish in the IHSAA Individual Boys State Championship. He has 43 state qualifiers and 30 placers. He's had 19 semifinalists, 8 state finalists, 5 state champions. He's coached the first and only state champions in school history. He was also the 2018 IHS WCA Coach of the Year. And the team has also won the award for having the best GPA of any team in the state 2 times. It's very easy to see why Coach Cooper is in the Hall of Fame. We have been told that our team is the gold standard in athletics. This did not happen overnight. It comes from Coach Cooper putting in the time and effort consistently throughout his coaching career to build a team, the wrestlers, and the community that are all part of this program. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I started coaching in 2001. I didn't really want to. I really only did it because the guy needed help. It was my former coach, Coach Martin. He was kind of in a bind. I was like, I'll help you out. And literally fell in love. Just been doing it ever since. My first state qualifier, sitting at the end of the table right there. So, I'm glad to have made an impact on the community and the people around me. More important than anything, my family. Probably 300 plus days a year we train or compete, and we do it all over the country. So we're traveling a lot. My wife has been, she's been the reason that I'm able to do this. So thank you.
Before they all leave, because they probably have lots of homework to do tonight, their coaches, administrators here are going to make sure they get it done, as well as their parents sitting over here. But please join me again. What two unbelievable examples of commitment to excellence, day in, day out, year after year. Congratulations to all of you. Now stay healthy and win again.
The rest of the meeting may be exciting, probably not as exciting as the first part. So if you were here for the celebrations, you are excused. In addition to school board meetings, school board members participate in committees where they represent the board, and at board meetings, we get a chance to hear about the activities of those committees. Mr. Glick, have you had any meetings to report on this evening?
Yeah, so the Wellness Council met last week. One of the main topics of discussion, as everybody knows, the government shutdown was also a big topic. So with the passing and everything of the funding, USDA funding is good through the year. So next time, if there is a shutdown or anything where they need a continuing resolution, the funding is good all the way through the fiscal year. So school lunches and USDA funding should not be affected. Big point of other point that we were talking about is CRH is looking for a possible grant that will be initiative for mental health and substance abuse. Basically kind of creating banners and posters around schools, and then possibly doing interviews with students on their own perspectives of either why they choose not to partake in substance issues or why they decided to stop their substance abuse. Something that's trying to basically have that peer analysis, so maybe can help further the issues of substance abuse and mental health issues that we see growing exponentially throughout our high schools. The other thing with the Wellness Council, we actually had a couple of students with us and kind of hearing their perspectives on the potential upcoming vape sensors that we're going to have, vape detectors. And it's kind of interesting to hear their perspective of they may not necessarily entirely like them because people are going to find workarounds and people are not going to find the help for substance abuse that they may need to find. So it was kind of interesting to hear one of those topics be brought up instead of trying to just stop it altogether, which, that being said, me on my soapbox, kids, if you're listening, don't do drugs. Don't start vaping. Vapes are bad. You don't know what's in them. And that's something that we're seeing more and more is just because you're vaping and you think it's safe, we don't know what it is. Other than that, we were supposed to have a district facilities meeting, but it got postponed due to just a light schedule. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glick. Mr. Nowlin?
I have two committees to report. The IU Columbus Advisory Board met on November 12th, and I actually gave everyone a handout to go along with that. Couple things to highlight. The Division of Education, I thought, is particularly important to us because we feed students into the system, but we also hopefully get students out of the end of the pipeline there. So 3 things on here. You can read all the details later, but the 3 things I want to highlight. One is a new program. Actually, all 3 of these are new programs. Registered Apprenticeship in Teaching, which 6 of our current teacher assistants and other paraprofessionals are involved in right now, and it's the program that while they're working, they can work towards teacher certification. So we benefit in many ways from that program. Another new program for them is secondary education. So students can now get a license in any secondary education subject. I think that's true. Part of it would be online and part of it would be in person, but they offer the content work plus the education courses to get certified for secondary education. And the third one, that's a new program. We've heard a lot about the science of reading in our schools. They now offer a master's program, Master of Science in Education, in the science of reading. So we may have teachers that want to become even more expert and they can take advantage of that. The other thing I want to report in terms of ISBA, my role as the legislative liaison, ISBA had a regional meeting on November 6th that 4 of our board members were able to attend. They talked about 4 legislative priorities that I'm going to run through as quickly as I can. Number 1 was deregulation, and they gave some specific ideas, but ways that the state can actually help local school corporations by giving us more control and flexibility in several different areas. Number 2 was TIF matters, tax increment financing, and a couple things there that they are interested in, hopefully the legislature making some movement on, putting some constraints on the tax money taken from schools for TIF districts, and also making the school board member, which in our case, Mr. Major, the school board representative, to actually make them a voting member on the TIF, the committee. And under various education matters, clarification, they're asking the legislature for clarification on the new legislation on general obligation bonds, which might impact us in the future. And the 4th priority was around pre-K, to restore the funding and actually increase the income eligibility, along with the lack of the cut in funding this year, to be eligible for assistance for On My Way pre-K. The current limit is 140% of poverty level, and they are seeking that to be raised to 400%. I also, although most of us were there, but I gave a sheet out of our handout from that meeting of upcoming ISBA seminars, most of which are online, to remind us to sign up.
Thank you, Mr. Nowlin. Mr. Major?
Yeah, Dale had mentioned a minute ago the redevelopment. So I'm going to actually start with Health Trust because it's easy. There was no Health Trust meeting, so no change there. Redevelopment, we did have some discussion earlier today. That meeting was at 4 o'clock in City Hall. They did talk about, there was a BCSC discussion there. I'm not going to speak to that, but there was some realignment and reassessment of some spaces in a couple of different parking garages where Toyota will be, a division of Toyota is going to take ownership of those. Cummins will reduce their parking. They talked about their spending plan, which if I understood it correctly, should be around 37 million. And I think most of that, if not all of that, is TIF dollars. And then they talked about the Wellsboro Airport master plan, and they're in the early phases of that to try and figure out what can be done in Wellsboro near the old airport to redevelop that area and make it usable. So that's what we talked about.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Major. Ms. Lloyd?
Good evening. The foundation actually has an upcoming meeting this Thursday. We'll be working on a year-end solicitation for the community. But most importantly, the Harlem Wizards game is Sunday. So we are really, really trying to get the word out. If you haven't bought tickets, I encourage you to do so. I go every year with my kiddos. It's a great time. Our very own Dr. Phillips is playing. So the tickets are still available on Facebook and the foundation website. So I think it's a great, fun time. So please consider attending. Council for Youth Development, I do have a really exciting announcement. I'm going to read it so I don't butcher it. But the council is announcing the launch of a new leadership program designed to empower the next generation of youth leaders to create and lead their own initiatives and community service projects outside of senior projects. I think that's incredibly exciting. It's one of the first teen-led councils in Bartholomew County that will unite members from multiple local youth leadership groups around a shared mission. They've actually come up with their very own name. It's ECHO, and it stands for Empowering the Community with Hope and Opportunity. We have our first executive board, and these students include Asher Stidham, Bruna Carrera, Paige Finke, Diego Fernandez Jimenez, Keegan Easton, and Eleanor Dixon. So I'm excited to work with them and see what they're going to do for our community. So congrats to them.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lloyd. Dr. Phillips will lead us now. The board has several strategic focus areas, and we like to get updates on those from time to time. So Dr. Phillips, you have one on high school graduation rates. Is that right?
We do. First, I just want to clarify, Dr. Phillips is coaching in the Harlem Wizards game.
I think that's a cop-out. Is that a cop-out?
That's okay. I was going to ask if we could convene the Health Trust to make sure that our insurance is good.
It would need to be good. But I've been watching Coach Signetti, so I've got some
well,
coaching.
You're ready then.
Exactly. I've got the scowl down. I'm just going to scowl the whole time. All right, thank you, Mr. Stenner. Starting a few board meetings ago, we put in front of each of the board members a binder that has a report on our 7 strategic focus areas with a commitment that anytime we update one of those, we'll share that update with the public at the board meeting. So this evening, you'll see our high school graduation rate update, not based on actual data that's been released by the Department of Education. We expect that to be around the first of the year, late December, early January. But the projections for 26, 27, and 28, these updated projections are based on really Mr. Edwards and my quarterly meetings with the cohort teams. We meet with every team and walk through all of the data from their cohort. And at the conclusion of this last round of meetings, Mr. Edwards was finally willing to update these projections with higher numbers. Based on those conversations, the amazing work those cohort teams are doing, student by individual student, developing relationships and helping those students be successful, we see the real possibility that we could get close to 96% in the next 3 years in our graduation rate. And then that 2028 number is just the range of possibilities with a freshman class between now and their graduation rate. It's just really too great to know. So, but we feel really good about that 95% number over the next couple of years. Happy to answer any questions about this projection update for you.
Any questions? Mr. Nowlin?
I don't think I have a question, but I just want to say that I appreciate the work that went into this from Mr. Edwards and from the cohort teams. I understand that we often have to wait for the official numbers to come from the state, but it's good for us to see what the cohort teams are working on down the pike, so to speak. And I especially appreciate, so we look at that and think, oh, there's a dip in the freshman class, and I fully understand there's a wider range there, but to me, one of the cool parts of this is, as we see this over the next 4 years, we can actually visually see the work that the cohort teams and the teachers and the support staff are doing to make that 93% as high as the other one. So thank you very much.
Yeah, the other thing with the 93 for 2028, that's the first year for the new diploma scheme. So it's going to be interesting to see, as there'll be the staple there. So see how that progresses and kind of give us a baseline moving forward.
Well, and I think it's important to note, this is the first time we've seen a good projection like this that's been presented early rather than late. So I appreciate this because I think I've asked a couple of times in the past to have updates. I'm glad we're starting to do this now and show it, because this is an excellent trend and it helps just prove that the things we're doing are right.
When do the 2025 numbers become official?
It
When
will.
that gray turn to red?
It will be hopefully by the first meeting in January, our January 4th board meeting, I believe.
Okay.
But your guess is as good as mine.
And is that because they count December graduations as well as?
They go all the way through the end of August, is that right, Charles? And then there's a whole reconciliation process that every district in the state has to go through. It's pretty complex.
Gotcha, thank you.
That's correct.
You don't want a bars.
Okay, so they keep it open until the end of September. And then, yes, that's right, there is a pretty lengthy reconciliation process where schools can essentially challenge and say, hey, listen, this kid did graduate, or here's the documentation, and that takes a while. And so after that happens, then they release the data. But that's why it takes so long.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions about this data? Thanks again, Dr. Phillips. Next, we'll move on to school corporation finances, and we've got the Q3 financial report. Mr. Branniger, Q3 is July, August, September, right?
Yes, sir.
So, okay.
You're making me think already. This is kind of hard. Looking first at our revenues, like we always do. In the education fund, our revenues are up about 1.5%, which has us on target for the full year. And a lot of that increase is due to a larger ADM count in the first half of the year compared to the first half of 2024. Within the operations fund, our revenues are down just under 1%, and the big piece there is the property tax caps that we've had hit us this year compared to last year, and we discussed those caps during the budget process. And then operating referendum is up 5.4%, and in that area, the largest increase is in property tax revenue. Looking at education fund expenditures, we're up about 4.66%. That is in the salaries. In benefits, up 6.5%. The reason the benefits are a little bit higher than the salaries is turf went up compared to last year, so that increase is affected. In supplies, we're up about 6.6%. That is in general supply purchases as well as in tech supplies under $10,000. And then our transfers to operations are down 6.8. That was budgeted that way. We did budget to transfer less money between the funds. Overall expenditures are up 4.1% in the education fund. Operations fund expenditures and salaries, those are up a little over 10%. Again, as we've discussed the first 2 quarters of this year, a big part of that is due to full staffing, and we'll see a reduction in some of our other expenditures as we reduced our temporary employees that we used. Benefits are up 5.8%, and our other expenditures are down about 9.6%. Some of that is in the capital expenditures that we have not made that were budgeted, but we will probably make before the end of the year, or we will be encumbering that money into next year. Overall, down just under 1% in expenditures in the operations fund. The referendum fund expenditures, teacher salaries are up 3.7%, directly related to 20 more teachers that we were able to bring into the referendum portion of the budget. Support staff salaries are up 4.1%. Benefits up 6.2%. Again, that's going to tie into the TURF increase. When I say TURF, I apologize. Teacher Retirement Fund, the increase we showed there. Safety and security, that is up 66%. Again, we did add the SSO, the school safety officers, in the second half of the year, and those expenditures are shown. And then STEM labs are up 15%, and those are the new staff members brought on receiving higher pay. Overall, referendum expenses are up 8.5%, and that mainly due to the retention that we'd hoped we would see with the referendum funds as well as the SSOs. Quarter 3 operating and rainy day fund cash balances versus reserves, and this is the one we added at the last meeting as a result of the fund cash balance plan that you put into place. Our goal with operating funds, which is education, operations, and the referendum fund, is to have a reserve level between 13.5 and 19%, and then in our rainy day fund between 4 and 6%. Over the last 4 years, we've been reducing those reserve levels in the operating funds. That shot up again in 22 and 23 as a result of the COVID funds that we had on hand. And then we've been eating that down so that we don't carry such a large reserve. Right now, for the 3rd quarter of this year, we're sitting at about 14.9%. This last slide was at the request of Dr. Phillips to give you an example or a projection of where we're going to be at the end of the year. Our cash balances in the 3 operating funds at the beginning of the year had about $25.6 million in reserves. We budgeted revenues of $143.6 million. We are projecting about $142.7 million. The reason we are going to receive less than we had budgeted is almost directly tied to those property tax caps. Our expenditure budget, and Mr. Major, that does show $98 million in the education fund. That's because I did include the transfer to operations there. So the expenditure budget is at $147 million. We're expected to expend $147. Our forecast cash balances then total, 21.3. I didn't put my glasses on. Included in some of those expenditures as well as in our cash balance is encumbered money. Those are monies that we had budgeted in the prior year, did not get expended in those years, but are directly tied to contracts that we have, and we want to use those monies for those projects. And we have about $4.8 million there that is in our reserve. When you reduce those amounts, we have a cash balance at about $16.5 million projected for the end of the year. And I know that was really quick, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
I think board members, questions? I was going to ask, just to make sure I understand, on the last slide there, the 21 million forecast cash balance for the end of the year, 21,382,000, that is made up of the encumbered funds, 4.8, and the cash balance that's left over,
Correct.
16.6, okay. Other questions? Thank you for the Q3 update, Mr. Brand.
Thank you, and anytime any of you have questions, just let me know. Thank you.
And just to make sure for the public, information like this is available on our website, or is it better to get this from IDOE?
Both. This would be part of the board meeting notes that'll be available to the public, and then on the DLGF website, there's a lot of this same information is available, and then the DOE through the Form 9 reports that we provide.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. Brainerd. Dr. Stahlbaum is going to present classified administrator salary increases for 25, 26, 27.
Yes, thank you. For your consideration tonight, we are recommending the classified and administrator salary increases as follows. Classified staff, including those on classified special contracts, will receive a 1.5% increase beginning July 1, 2026, and then a 2.5% increase beginning July 1, 2027. Administrators will receive an $850 increase, which is an average percentage increase of 0.7%, retroactive to July 1, 2025, and then a 2.5% increase beginning July 1, 2026. These recommendations are in alignment with past practice following the ratification of the teachers' collective bargaining agreement. Dr. Bozeman and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is an action item for the board later in the meeting. Are there questions here? Thank you very much, Dr. Stahlbaum. ADM stands for?
Average Daily Membership. Good evening. This is your annual fall ADM report. I'll explain this chart that you're looking at. You're familiar with it. It's the same chart that we use each year. We update. School enrollment, this is an October 1st count date that we use. It determines funding for the school year by school and by grade level. And then comparatively, October 25 compared to October 24 on the right-hand side. And then on the bottom, you see cohort comparisons. So last year's kindergartners compared to this year's first graders is how you read that information. Nothing that you don't already know already, but our average daily membership count this year is down 225 students. Our budget reflects that. As we've discussed many times, this trend is similar to other like-sized districts. I'll explain a little bit more of that and some speculation we have, but you'll notice a smaller kindergarten class of 117 students compared to the outgoing seniors of last year, which is a significant factor, of course. We also had 40, this was a little bit unrealized until recently, but we had 40 students that graduated at the end of their junior year, 29 at East High School and 11 at North High School. So that's a trend that we think we'll need to accommodate for in the future. And then I'll speak a little bit more here in a couple slides about the changing landscape of virtual education and the impact on our ADM, at least our assumed impact on that. This next slide, again, we update this as we go. This is our current ADM numbers compared to the two most recent demographic studies, both in 2016 and 2021. We have asked for an updated demographic study from that 21 based on the most recent ADM data, and we've received that preliminarily. We have a few questions and some clarifications we're working through with Dr. Brudvig, and we'll share that once we have that. But that blue line is our current ADM, and you see that decrease there noted by the 225 students. This last slide is new, and I'll won't read it to you, but I'll speak to a few things here, and then Mr. Edwards may be best to answer specific questions about virtual education, at least at the secondary level. We have had a virtual academy in BCSE since 2017, as you well know. You also know that we have very high standards and accountability within our virtual programming. And we are also comfortable in saying that is not the case in other places across the state, is our assumption. So when we have students that choose to go to virtual education for whatever reason at BCSE, there's a process that they follow with their cohorts and supports that are given and expectations and accountability with that. Sometimes those students stay with us in CVP and sometimes they do not. So the data that you see on the right-hand side, this is from a spring report, a spring transfer report that comes from the state. We get this every single year. The numbers change, obviously, and there are a few things that jump out to us as we start to look at these things. So some of the school districts listed on the top have had online programs for a while, or they are newly formed online programming. And the number you represent, I'll just choose Clarksville because they're at the top of the list there. In 2025, again, this is spring of 2025, we had 45 students with BCSE legal settlement, which means they live in our boundary, attend school in Clarksville. So I don't know this for certain, of course, but I would make an assumption that we do not have 45 students driving an hour down I-65 to attend in-person classes in Clarksville, and you can look down the list and draw your own assumptions there. So that's an increase of 117 students since 21 to 25. And again, this is something that is a trend that we have our eye on. Other districts are affected similarly. So if you combine, going back to the original slide, if you combine the smaller class, outgoing seniors, incoming kindergarten at 117 students, the early grads of 40 that graduated at junior year, the impact on, you can quickly add up and see potentially where that 225 student delta comes from. So one other item of concern, Dr. Phillips and Mr. Edwards and the team meet with our cohort groups, meet weekly, and you know their purpose. And Dr. Phillips and Mr. Edwards meet with them quarterly and go through updates on really student-by-student progress, that you're aware of that process. But there are stories of individual students. I'll share one with you just for perspective, but this individual student attended North High School in 9th grade, earned 10 credits. Again, you need 40 to graduate is our target, of course. Attended North High School semester 1. His or her sophomore year earned 5 credits on target. Unenrolled, did not attend our CVP pathway, but attended another online academy. In the second semester of 10th grade, earned 0 credits, came back to North in person first semester in 11th grade, and is on track to earn 7 credits, but is credit deficient at that point. So our cohorts are now playing a little bit of catch up in some of those situations. I have a list of several that I will not read to you, but that's one. They're all similar stories. So happy to answer questions you have about the fall ADM report. And again, if you have more specific questions about some CVP virtual requirements that we have here, Mr. Edwards is happy to jump up and answer those questions as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bozeman. Just to make sure I understand the story you related to us, the student went to a virtual academy, not ours, but another one somewhere else online, for an academic year and did not make any progress, no credits?
The example I gave was 1 semester, but that's accurate, yeah.
One semester.
So left North High School with 15 credits and came back with 15 credits.
What do we know about the 117 or I guess the 45 that are enrolled in Clarksville now, or 21? Are there things that we can glean, characteristics of these people and their experiences, students?
So this is just raw data that we have. Usually the local data that we have on the student by student is gathered by our administrative assistants at the building level. So if a student moves out, he or she will ask, where are you going, and that sort of thing. So we'll get some of that narrative from folks as they go. Unless the cohort in the secondary example have specific examples that they've reached out to the families and they know where they're going and why they're going there, this is the only data we have from the state on the transfer. And I'll also mention that we do not get data on those that go to homeschool. So that's another wonder, or I wish that we would have on some of that homeschool data as well, because we do have some of those.
I'm sure other board members have questions. I'll let Mr. Nowlin.
So I think you're saying one reason some of these virtual transfers leave BCSC is because of the additional accountability that we are requiring with the virtual pathways that these others might not be requiring. So can you give us a little more detail about what kinds of accountability and how we put those into place? Why
Mr.
we're
Nowlin,
requiring more of students?
I have fielded far more secondary education questions than I should up here, so I'll pause while Mr. Edwards comes up.
I'll just start by saying you're doing a fantastic job. So really, when we have students go to CVP, there are a couple things. And so when you're talking about the accountability aspect, a full-time CVP student has 5 classes, and we expect students to be online and active for 30 minutes a day for each of those classes. So that's 2.5 hours a day that we expect students to be active. And we really get that 30 minutes by looking at what would happen in a 44-minute class period. So about 30 minutes of it would be instruction. And so that's the expectation for our virtual students.
So when it says attendance, for the virtual, the way we track attendance is by the amount of time they spend online with those courses?
That is correct.
Okay.
Our cohort teams have also moved to start developing their own agreements. So as they've seen, as you can imagine, having a teenager go home and stay away from school every day for weeks or months only works successfully for a small percentage of the student population are successful in that kind of setting. And so our cohort teams have worked really hard to say to families, if you are interested in going to virtual education, you have that option, but you're gonna come in and meet with us once a quarter, and we're gonna check up on you. You have to meet these attendance requirements and these grade requirements. And if they're not meeting those, then we say you're coming back because you were more successful in person than you were online. And again, like Dr. Bozeman said, I can't speak to the quality or standards of other virtual programs, but what we have is some families look at that agreement and some students and they say, well, no, I'll just go enroll in another online program. And then, like was shared, we've anecdotally from cohorts at both schools, every cohort, they can tell a story about students that then come back to us after having enrolled in that and the parent realizing, oh, you're not doing the work you told me you were doing, and I got the first report card, and you didn't pass any of your classes. Then they come back to us in person. So we have had conversations and shared this information with our legislators to help, help address the system statewide, because this is an issue that, number one, is obviously not good for kids. It's not good for our district as we lose our students and then have to catch them up when they come back, and it's not good for the community. And so when it's the trifecta of all one problem that's bad for all three of those things, we like to raise that with our legislators and bring some attention to it.
I don't want to veer us too far off the path, so stop me if I get too far. But I know we've talked about families and how transient they can be, and that's oftentimes reflected in this report. I know especially now a lot of families in our district and everywhere are facing significant barriers with housing and food insufficiency, and a lot of times that transiency is due to moving to meet basic needs, right? So I also acknowledge our counselors cannot be case managers, that's not their job, but what is the referral process if a family does have those barriers? And it does come out, like you said, sometimes they call and say, why are you leaving, what's going on? What's the next step? if a counselor or a vice principal would encounter that conversation.
So, just for clarification, you're asking what the next step would be in a referral process to like a CVP in order to?
Well, not necessarily CVP, just, we're moving to Franklin to live with 6 other families because we can't make ends meet. I mean, what is the comeback of BCSC counselors at that point? Where are you sending them? Are we trying to intervene? Are we linking them to United Way or?
So I would imagine that, yes, we have a list of local agencies that can help in those situations. I will say that our cohort spend a significant amount of time with students.
Yeah.
So usually they know where they are in that hierarchy of places that can help.
Okay.
And so they know if they've been to the United Way. They know, what that family has been through and what those circumstances are. And so, yes, we do our best to link folks with local services that would help them stay local and help them get the things that they would need.
Thank you.
And the other significant step in that process that I didn't realize until just a couple of years ago was the case. So when a student in that scenario transfers to another district, if that district doesn't reach out within a few days for records, we are contacting that district and we're calling the family, cell phone numbers, however we can try to get a hold of them. If a significant number of days goes past without that student enrolling and we can't get a hold of any of the family members, then there's a national clearinghouse that we can report that to, and then other people start looking for that child to find out where that student is. And our folks are pretty relentless because not only do they want to find out where their child is, but they need to enroll in another district before they're removed from our graduation rate. And so they don't give up and stop calling until they know that child is enrolled, settled in a place, and then that establishes a relationship between the receiving school and the sending school as well to call and talk about any circumstances that they might need to know about.
Mrs. Lloyd, I'll also add to Charles' comment that our counselors are very well versed in McKinney-Vento laws, and families that are homeless and doubled up is homeless according to the law. So we have several families, many families, that number grows throughout the year that we provide transportation between schools and out of the district as well if they qualify in a situation as you described. So.
I think our counselors go way above and beyond. Just can't imagine having to field those conversations in addition to their daily conversations, but I'm thankful that they do. Thank you.
So I realize this is about attendance, not graduation, but it obviously is impacting graduation, and graduation rates is one of our priorities. So 2 questions. Our students that go to the Columbus Virtual Pathways full-time, does their graduation rate go back to one of our high schools? And is that also the case, let's say, for Clarksville or other places? If they're taking students that are not earning credits, is that impacting their graduation rates down the road?
Yes. So the students who are at CVP are North students, they're East students, they're Central students, North Side, like they're our students. And so whatever their home school would be, then yes, that student's grades, all of that goes back to, say, East or North or CSA New Tech at the high school level. So yes. And then when a student transfers out to go to, say, a Clarksville or any of those other districts that are listed up there, then they enroll officially in that district, and then that district does take on that student's attendance and graduation rate.
But with that student living in our district, though, as soon as they come back to us, they're back then on our graduation rate and attendance rates.
My only thing was, I hit Dr. Phillips with about 6 ADM questions the other day. I appreciate your answer and getting that information back. The one that actually came up, sitting here looking at the numbers on the first slide, approximately how many of the kindergartners do we lose going into first grade to parochial area schools? Because I'm assuming we didn't lose all 42 to St. B's, St. P's, and White Creek, but just out of curiosity, of that 42 go from kindergarten to first grade, like the percentage that we lose every year.
So I do not have the specific information that you're looking at or that you're asking for relative to parochials, but, so that's if I'm looking at your question the right way, Mr. Click, this is last year's kindergarten, this year's first grade. Is that what you're asking?
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. It takes, it takes a minute to get your eyes focused on which way to go. So you're comparing last year's kindergarten at $7.99 to this year's first grade at $7.96, so it's a decrease of 3, but.
So by that graphic, 3 and potentially none of them went to parochial schools.
Yeah, so, but to answer your question about parochials, we don't have that data quite yet, so.
Similarly, we have the raw numbers that say this is how many students that live in your district that attend St. Bede's, St. Peter's, Columbus Christian, but none of the grade level data or individual student information.
I think my biggest concern is on the next slide. And so this goes back to 2 years ago when we made a decision to build another elementary school. There was a decline from the 2022-23 to 2032-2033 of approximately 500 students. We're almost halfway there now, and we're only two and a half years into that cycle. So 25% of the way there, we're 40 to 50% of the way in the decline. You can see that in the blue line now, dipped well below the green line. My concern is, will that ever come back up? Because I go back to my continued disagreement with the need for another elementary school. I know there's other reasons other than enrollment, but enrollment's what pays the bills. And when you do get another school, you have to have additional buses, bus drivers, cooks, janitors, teachers, all these things that are hard to get today. And funding is just getting more difficult. So I'll just leave it out there that I think this concerns me with continuing to build a school, that if this goes this trend for too long, we're gonna have less enrollment than what we would have even expected.
I'm gonna go back to the last slide for a second. Looking at the names of some of the places in the enrolled corporation column, it seems like I've seen some of those in the news. Is the state investigating some of these virtual schools providing virtual education that isn't working for the students?
Mr. Center, I think you're probably referencing Union. That district has garnished a lot of attention legislatively this past session, which resulted in legislative action to close that district. But that's probably the one that you recognize. That district has had thousands of students enroll over the course of the past several years in their online. It's a very small school district boundary-wise, so that's probably the one that I'm less familiar than the others on there, but that's probably the one that you're referencing from memory.
Other questions about the ADM report? When has this been filed officially with the state now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Last cabinet report, if we're ready, Dr. Stahlbaum.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for dedicating time to go over the legislative changes to what is named the Teacher Appreciation Grant. The presentation I have for you this evening is very detailed, as there is a substantial shift between what once was the process to distribute the TAG dollars and what is now the process to distribute the TAG dollars. My goal for this presentation is to be informative. However, I will not be as detailed with my narrative, and thus I'll stick with my notes. Before I begin, I want to thank the Columbus Educators Association for their collaboration and partnership through this process. We spent countless hours together over the last month coming up with a TAG process that is transparent, explicit, and comprehensive for teachers. And so, we will begin with going over the core changes from the past TAG, which was in effect from 2017 to 2024, to the criteria for the new TAG of 2025. The old TAG was characterized by providing grants to teachers and the effective and highly effective categories of our performance evaluation system. Those grant dollars derived from the IDOE after school corporations submitted an annual board policy detailing our tag distribution process. No teacher names were provided to the IDOE underneath that old tag process that you see. The 2025 tag process makes substantial changes. There is no annual board policy to approve. Instead, school corporations must submit a list of no more than 20% of teachers who have demonstrated significant impact on student achievement through 3 identified tiers of the Teacher Appreciation Grant. And I will provide BCSC specific context for each criteria on those subsequent slides. So we'll break this down. Whereas before, as I stated, teachers were provided tag dollars by earning an effective or highly effective performance rating on our evaluation system, now teachers are to meet specific criteria under each tiered stipend amount. As you can see on the screen, there are 3 stipend tiers for each tag, or for tag. Each stipend tier provides a different dollar amount. There is an asterisk next to the Tier 1 recognition stipend, as that is the tier that BCSC will identify teachers for during our tag process for 2025-2026. This tag process uses data from 2024-2025 for teachers to demonstrate how they made significant impact on student outcomes using national, state, or local assessment measures. In the last form of tag, all teachers who received a highly effective or effective evaluation rating received some form of tag dollars. In this new form of tag, no more than 20% of teachers in the corporation can receive tag at each tier's identified amount. Again, that's determined through the legislative decision making. The IDOE provided each corporation's total allocation of tag dollars most recently, and adjustments were made to the 20% as based on that IDOE allocation. So with that adjustment, less than 20% of BCSC teachers will receive those tag dollars. As BCSC engages in a process to identify teachers for the Tier 1 tag stipend, we will also work to proportionately identify individuals receiving the dollars throughout our buildings and programs. Whereas pre-2025, school corporations submitted our tag policy for the grant distribution, we are now required to submit a list of teachers to receive those tag dollars, along with how they satisfy those tiers through submitting the assessment measure utilized to demonstrate significant impact on student outcomes. The IDOE has defined significantly impacting student outcomes by exceeding 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. So with these changes, again, very fortunate to work with CEA to come up with our BCSC tag process. Tomorrow morning, teachers will receive an email which details the new tag process. Within that email, there will be a form available for teachers to submit. That form asks teachers those questions on assessment, instruction, and data. So it asks them to identify for us which assessment measure are you using, national, state, or local, how does it align to our Indiana academic standards, and then provide us a synopsis on how you are demonstrating significant student outcomes with these data that you are submitting. So this form is going to be available for teachers between November 18th and December 18th. Again, our goal was to create a transparent, comprehensive, explicit process. Along with the form tomorrow, they will also be receiving the checklist rubric that we will be using to identify teachers who are eligible for these grant dollars. So they'll get the form, they'll get the rubric that we will use to grade the form, and then they will also receive an FAQ document. Again, CEA, we we got together and we said, what are those questions that we know teachers are going to have? Let's go ahead and create an FAQ document. So that FAQ document will also go out. We will gather those submissions throughout December 18th, and then a tag team will come together, and that tag team will be comprised of teachers and BCSC administrators. We will grade those submissions with that rubric that teachers will receive tomorrow. And then we will identify teachers proportionately per building and per program as well in order to submit that list of teachers to the IDOE for the tag distribution of dollars. We will use a lottery system if needed because we know that we are going to have to be very dynamic when we work together as a tag team to provide that proportionality for that identification. Ultimately, and above all, we know that each and every teacher creates a lasting impact on students that cannot always be submitted through a form or via an assessment. We celebrate that every day. We celebrated that this evening. And so we truly value each individual's commitment to the students at BCSC, and again, are very appreciative to work with our Teachers Association to develop this process. I'm happy to answer questions.
It's making everybody else sad. This is just so sad. I
Ms.
feel
Lloyd?
like I'm staring at you, but you're just the messenger, so.
I'm happy to answer questions as the
I
messenger.
do have questions. I think this is one of the most challenging things that's come across, at least in my first year. I think this is really, really frustrating. We have too many incredible teachers for just 20%. One thing that came to mind, you mentioned the fall versus spring. So I think a lot of teachers and staff, employees in general, have come to rely on this money probably this time of year around the holidays. What does that impact look like? And are you trying to manage that in any way?
Great question.
So going back to probably 2012, I think, maybe is the first time that the state they had teacher, it wasn't called appreciation grants, achievement grants, I'm sorry, was the first time. And at that time, in this district, the superintendent, Dr. Quick, said that if this is rewarding staff members for student achievement, then we're gonna reward all of our staff members. And so the dollars, while most teachers received money from the teacher achievement grants and from teacher appreciation grants in the old format, we also as a district for now that 12 years or so have provided a stipend of $100 to a part-time classified staff member who's permanent and $200 to a full-time permanent staff member. And we have been able to find funds to do that for the last several years. With the current situation, the $400,000+ that we used to get that covered almost all the teacher stipends for the teacher appreciation grants was covered by those teacher appreciation grant dollars. And then all we had to do was come up with about $200,000 to make sure that everyone else received a stipend each year. Unfortunately, with the $1.8 million decrease in state tuition, property tax cap losses, Senate Enrolled Act 1 impact, and then mostly the change in teacher appreciation grants where we would have to find hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide teacher appreciation grants to the other 600, 700 teachers who don't qualify under this new tag. We will not be able to continue those annual stipends that have gone out every year around November or December going forward, barring some change in circumstance financially. Hate to share that, and I hate that we have to end that practice, but it's the responsible thing to do. Knowing that that was going to be the case, we tried to push as much as we could to the annual increase for both teachers and classified staff.
So will that be part of the communication that goes out that won't be happening?
Tomorrow morning.
Another thing popped into my head, and you sort of hit on it with your last slide. So this presentation is really helpful. Thank you. I know that you're looking at certain criteria, but are there any measurements that'll be considered that are like non-test scores? Because impact's not always in
I
the
know.
test scores.
That's not what this grant was written for, and so it does require you to submit what quantitative data did you utilize to demonstrate student outcome impact. And we have to identify that on the submission we provide to the state. Whereas before, we did not provide them teacher names, we provided them the policy that you all adopted. Now we have to provide a list of teacher name, what is the assessment measure you're utilizing, and how do you know that they demonstrated that significant impact on student achievement?
And teachers have to submit for themselves.
Yes.
That's the only way that they will be considered.
Mhm.
Good luck.
Mr. Nowell?
Thank you.
Several thoughts. First of all, some things that I really appreciated and valued in what we have been doing. One is that we acknowledge that all of our employees are important for student achievement. And the other is that it acknowledged that our teacher evaluation system actually did evaluate teachers. And so the teachers who got the grant it included any teacher who was effective or highly effective. This new program is layered on top of that. I fully appreciate that you and the CEA representatives are stepping up to what I think is a terribly challenging situation, how to make this work. I mean, our other option is to say we're not going to give any money to any of our teachers, and that's not a good option. A couple questions. So first of all, I just really, really appreciate the work that you have done and that CEA has done to try to make the best of this legislation. One clarification, I think what you're saying is the state says you can award up to 20%, but they're not giving us enough money to even come close to that.
That's correct.
Even at just tier 1, they're not giving us enough money to come close to 20% of our teachers at tier 1. That's bad on them. But my next question is, so you have a group, this TAG committee, or you're going to have a TAG committee that is going to get together and look at possibly 100 or more applications. Do we have any way that we are compensating those teachers for that time?
That's a good question. No, what we have is I've asked CEA to provide me with some representatives that would want to sit on this TAG team. As you know, the CEA, we work together quite collaboratively on different projects, committees, and thus they've essentially volunteered their time to do this through a committee-type team. I don't want to call it a committee because, as we know, once the short session happens this spring, this could ultimately change. This is something we know people are focused on at all levels and changing because, one, as you stated, the math didn't math at the end of the day for anyone. It wasn't just for BCSE. All corporations received an allocation of dollars that would not allow them to provide this grant for 20% of their staff. And then they know that some of the language has created this negative affective space that we're feeling right now. So I say that because I don't have dollars set aside for that right now, and those teachers have indicated that they would like to be involved in this process as much as possible.
So I have another question, but what you just said brought to mind. So last summer I spent a couple days as the legislative liaison working with ISBA on legislative priorities. And the very first thing that came up from every person in that group was this legislation, but it was decided to set it aside for a year because it is a new program and it was going to get rolled out this year. And it may show up as some kind of ISBA priority next year, I don't know. But my other question is, so this is based on a year's growth that they show in some, whether national, state, or local kinds of assessments. And I think this is true for new our new school grading system that they're rolling out, they're really emphasizing a growth model, which brings to mind some of our special needs students. So a year's growth is a different thing for different students. So will special ed teachers have a reasonable shot for all of the hard work they do to qualify for these?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we actually have been working with the DOE on this for quite some time to get to the point we're at, because originally they had stated that special education teachers who do not have a roster are not eligible. After working with them quite a bit on helping them understand that our special education teachers do have significant impact on students as teachers of record, they are allowing them to be eligible. And thus, our special education teachers can submit data in association with the growth that they had with a small group of students, one student. It doesn't need to be an entire roster that you submit. It could be, I demonstrated a significant impact on growth with this small group of students as demonstrated by their mastery goals on their IEPs, as an example.
Thank you.
The biggest thing for me out of all this is you talk about showing growth. How are we going to show growth? Is that through like I learn, I read? So we've got standard tests and I think you guys have shared some of those. I actually shared some stuff with Dale. I took the previous I learn information and put it on charts for myself, and I gave it to Dale previously. So we're going to use that type of data. That's awesome, because we've not, I don't think, used that, seen that, shared that in a way that actually drives action. And, you know, I think it is, no matter what happens in here, it's probably not going to be good enough for the teachers that are working their butts off every day. But in the end, if we're given a task from the state to use this money most effectively, then we have to really start taking a look at those scores and giving the State House a reason to change it to something that allows us to grow the program by showing that we're improving scores so well across the corporation that they can't just stop at 20% or they can't just stop at a dollar amount. And I think that's where I would challenge all the rest of us up here to, if you haven't already done it, send a letter to the State House and tell them they need to do better. If you've not done that, do it. You know, because we can sit in here and we can have all the tears shed and we can complain all we want, but it isn't going to do anything to change what happens in Indianapolis.
I think, Mike, is the DOE submitting us, are they giving us the rubric for assessments, or is it something that we're coming up with ourselves as a corporation?
The DOE gave us each tier and how you qualify for each tier. As a corporation and as a partnership with CEA, we said, we really want to give some more guidance to teachers so that they know this is what the expectation is. So we created the checklist rubric together just to create that very explicit, transparent process. And the DOE has stated, this is how you qualify, and they've defined a few things for us. Like, this is what we mean when we say significant student outcomes.
Yeah, I asked that because of prior conversations we've had regarding other metrics and data that go to the state and DOE, where we come up with our own quantifiable data, and we're creating our own metric information to send up there instead of them giving us what they really want. And so that's kind of where I see the problem is sometimes it's from DOE and it's come from legislators that are creating a bottleneck here that everybody's just making their own rules, and rules don't matter, points don't matter, just submit information we'll figure out and throw darts at a dartboard. So state and DOE, got it.
I can give you the list of all 150 email addresses if you want it.
Any other questions?
One thing that I want to add here, I do not want to speak for CEA leadership, as one of their officers is here this evening, but I just want to be clear that the CEA and ISTA made it very clear from the get-go that they were opposed to this new system and did not want to have to be part of choosing wins and who loses, but worked alongside it. It said, if we have to do this, then we want to work alongside you and be part of the process. So I just didn't want to give the impression that CEA leadership was supportive of this. They have been collaborative and worked with us throughout. But just like the rest of us, wish that there was a better system in place.
Clarification.
I imagine there will be lots of identifiers in the narrative that teachers submit, but is there any anonymity in this process? Are you blacking out names? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so a part of the guidance is not to submit student names. And then we will create an anonymous process where I receive all the forms, and actually a member of BARDA is going to help in taking out the names and putting in numbers instead. And so the entire process will be anonymous. Even the tag team will be anonymous. They don't want to be identified. And then as BCSC, we do not intend on publishing a list of teachers who receive tag. We cannot control what happens once we provide that list to the state level. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Dr. Stahlbaum. That concludes the cabinet reports for this evening. Every board meeting, we allow the opportunity for the public to make comments before the board makes its business decisions. We did not have anybody sign up for the comments this time. For reference for future meetings, when you enter our meeting space, there's a blue sheet, infamous blue sheet, that we keep by the door, and anyone who wants to speak at one of our meetings is free to sign up on the blue sheet. Again, we did not have anyone take advantage of that this time. So we'll move on to item number 6, request for approval, old business.
Thank you, Mr. Stinner. Tonight, I request approval for item 6A, old business, minutes of the school board meeting of October 20th, the special school board meeting on October 29th, and the executive session also of October 29th, 2025.
Board members, we've heard the recommendation from the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve item 6, the minutes from the last 3 meetings as shown on the board.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nowlin, second by Mr. Major. Any discussion or questions on this issue? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda item number 7, Dr. Phillips, we'd like to take, we have a board member who's married to someone who will be impacted by the classified and administrative salary increases. So after you make this presentation, I think that we may get a motion from a board member that includes items A through H other than G. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Any other board members have concerns or want to exempt themselves from voting on any particular issue because of a potential conflict? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I will just proactively request approval in that manner. So tonight, I request approval of items 7A through D. These are the regular approval items of supplemental contracts, field trips, and professional leaves that are overnight or out of state, school fundraisers, and the November docket and claims of $1.2 million, the October 2025 pre-runs of $7.7 million, and the 2 payrolls between October 17th and October 31st of just over $7.6 million. In addition, item 7E, to receive permission to receive bids for the renovation of Taylorsville Elementary School, which you had a presentation on last time, as well as bids for roof replacement at Clifty Creek and Rock Creek. Those are part of the Envision 2030 projects, but we would like to do those roofs outside of the renovation projects before they get started to get them done this year. And then also item 7H, the final policy package for a reorganization of the 27 policies that we reviewed during the last meeting, as well as the work session, I believe, all the way back in September. So that is requesting approval, again, of items 7A through F and H.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve items 7A through F and item H as shown in the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Nowlin, second by Mr. Major. Questions? Discussion? Hearing none, we can move on to the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. That motion is carried. Dr. Phillips, item 7G, please.
Thank you, Mr. Center. I request approval item 7G, the classified and administrative salary increases as presented earlier this evening by Dr. Stahlbaum.
Thank you. Recommendation from the superintendent. Is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve item 7G, classified and administrative salary increases.
Second.
Tie.
I'll let,
She can have it.
okay. I was gonna say, I'll let Mrs. Chrisman decide that. She can
That's fine.
find it on the tape. Motion is to approve item 7G. Any discussion or questions? And Mr. Glick, I'm not sure I made it clear. You'll be abstaining from this vote?
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we can move on to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 8, Dr. Stahlbaum.
Yes, thank you. The Human Resources recommendations consist of 1 resignation, 3 appointments, and 4 leaves of absence. There are no additional Human Resources recommendations. I request that you please approve items 8A and B as presented.
We've heard the recommendation from Dr. Stahlbaum. Is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve items 8 Alpha and Bravo at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Glick. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Major, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Stahlbaum? Any discussion? We'll move on to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Those items are approved. We have a chance now for board input and review. Ms. Lloyd, I'll start with you. Any input or review after the meeting this evening?
Just a lot of congratulations. So congratulations to Columbus North and Coach Cooper. Quite a career, and wishing North good luck in Portland. Also wanted to congratulate Dr. Leach, who was named the 2025 IFLTA Walter Bartz Distinguished World Language Administrator. Boy, that's a mouthful. That's quite an honor, so congratulations to her. Congratulations to North, New Tech, Central, and Northside for being named Purple Star Schools by the IDOE for their significant commitment to service members. Also, shout out to our schools who welcome veterans on Veterans Day. I think that's just such a wonderful opportunity for learning and acknowledgement for those who have served. And good luck to our elementary school students at Spell Bowl tonight. I almost didn't come, so I could have been there. It's one of my favorite things to watch. I'm always so impressed. So shout out to them. Also, thanks to our teachers who probably had to have extra patience today. Did you guys know it was the 67th day of school? 6, 7. So shout out to them. So I know some schools embraced it. So thinking of all of our teachers today on the 67th day.
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd. Mr. Major?
Yeah, so I think everybody in here is going to congratulate the North Boys State Championship. So great job there. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for bringing up the fall academic all-state. I think that to me, for all athletics, if you're an academic all-state, it kind of exemplifies the best of everything. So congratulations to the 60 individual winners there. That's really a high number. That's awesome to see that our high schools are putting out great athletes, but also, more importantly, academic success there. I think I want to highlight some volunteer opportunities for some robotics different competitions. So December 13th at Parkside Elementary, January 2nd and 3rd at Columbus North High School. There's potentially going to be one on January 17th. Location is pending. And then February 19th and 20th back at Columbus North High School. There is a way you can sign up. Mrs. Haynes can help with that. I can get the email to you. I can get you the website as well if needed. And I think the last thing I want to just highlight, I know he's not here now, but hopefully he'll see it or hear about it. But I think I am the only person that was in the room that was first in Coach Cooper's house when he was talking about doing some different things with wrestling. In 2003 to 2006, I was part of that coaching crew. And so between Chris Cooper, Rashad Trapp, Heath Fisher, Roger Glick, and the late Gary Walker and myself, we were Chris's initial coaching team. And so by the time I had hung my wrestling shoes up in 2006 after my daughter was born, I was a JV head coach at that time, and I was putting in probably close to 600 to 700 hours a year, all volunteer to help coach. And I know Chris was doing more than that. So when these kids talk about the amount of work that he puts in, you got to think about the amount of work that a football coach, a basketball coach, a softball coach, baseball, these coaches do a heck of a lot to leave a positive impression on our youth. And so Chris was the one that we spoke about tonight, but hopefully we'll speak about more in the future. And so thank all those coaches, both paid and volunteer, for all their efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Mr. Nowlin?
A couple things. Congratulations to the students that we celebrated here tonight. And I have to share, so I first met Chris Cooper when I was teaching a math ed course at IU Bloomington, and he was decided that he wanted to go into teaching. So I have to say, not to take away anything from his wonderful job he does coaching and as assistant athletic director, but he is also a terrific AB and BC calculus teacher. A couple weeks ago, Mr. Glick and I got the chance to tour CSA New Tech, and I just want to say that I taught at both of the other high schools, but I am so thrilled that we have a third high school in town, and how unique each of our high schools is to meet different needs for different students. We actually, most of the tour, we had a student tour guide, and he was just phenomenal in his expertise, and he had no problem speaking about many, many aspects of the school. And it was just a great visit, and I just, again, appreciate that we have three high schools that meet the needs of students. Something else I wanted to mention, something that I learned at our last ISBA regional meeting that was something to celebrate and a surprise to me. Indiana is #1 in the nation for the number of students who graduate, or the percent of students who graduate with college credits. Those might come from dual credits or AP courses where they do well enough on the exam, or online courses that they're taking through universities while they're still in high school, which prompted me to wonder how well we do. When I started teaching math a few years ago, if someone told me that someday I would be teaching high school students multivariable calculus and differential equations, I would think they were from another planet. But we do that in our schools now. So I asked Mr. Edwards, and he is working on this, because this is not an easy thing to gather, because there are so many different situations where kids are earning these credits. But I'm curious how we compare to how the state does. We are working very hard in celebrating high school graduation, which I am fully behind, but I also think it's good for us to see the students that we have that go way beyond that and get a chance to celebrate them. So sometime down the road, we're going to hear some percents on that.
Thank you, Mr. Nowlin. Mr. Glick?
Well, Mr. Major took my volunteer list. I will add to that, though, the Columbus North High School Student Assembly is currently looking for volunteer drivers for the canned food drive that they have for Christmas. That being said, with holidays around, there are canned donations and canned food donations at almost all, if not all, schools throughout. So if you can give back, especially this time of need through Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. Congratulations to Columbus North. Good luck on December 6th in Portland. I guess we're gonna have another field trip to approve next meeting, since that wasn't on this list. But it's kind of crazy to look at Coach Cooper and the progress he's made in 24 years. His initial first year was 2003 as the actual head coach. And so, as he announced earlier, I was one of his first state qualifiers. He learned as he went, and so wrestling for him and then coming back to coach for him about 15 years later, to see the evolution that he created just through dedication, hard work, and just blood, sweat, and tears suffered by many of us through hard practices and everything. It's kind of crazy to change your coaching style because of the influence that he has and the things that he's learned. And so I use that concept at Central with Coach Fisher, as Mr. Major also announced earlier too. So it's kind of cool to see the evolution of the sport, of where we are, and just how, as Dr. Phillips said earlier, we're always watching coaches as he's learning from Coach Sig Signelli. He's the new hotness right now, if you will. So, but it's nice to see where we're going. And as you talk about Coach Cooper and teaching calculus, I spoke with his son, Caleb. We spoke earlier the other day at wrestling practice, and he said, yeah, I'm taking Dad's class. He says it's easy, but calculus is actually really hard. So it's kind of cool to see that not only is he a coach, he's a father, he's now teaching his son in the same class as well. So he's every variable there. It's great. So
Impressive. Thank you, Mr. Glick. Any closing comments, Dr. Phillips?
Just two. We're only in school next week, Monday and Tuesday. Please enjoy the Thanksgiving break, everyone. Be safe, safe travels. And speaking of traditions of excellence, I got another message from Mrs. Summers over the weekend that Central's Spell Bowl team, state grand champions, again, every student perfect scores. Every single word spelled correctly. So some more traditions of excellence. You know.
Every student perfect scores.
She says, I win, Google me. She didn't say. We'll be back on December 15th.
We will be back here in this room on Monday, December 15th. That's the next board meeting. With no further business to come before the board this evening, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.